Hello everyone and welcome back once again, and today we are going to discuss very important topic, and that is optional subject for UPSC, right? So a lot of queries are being asked daily. How can we select our optional subject? How can we proceed with this optional subject? How to start preparation? Before telling you all these things, I'll be discussing in three parts. Like in first part I'm going to tell you what is this optional subject, right? Many of you still have doubt in this. Second, I'm going to tell you how can you select your a good optional as per your capability and your ability and your strength. And third is going to be how can you prepare for that optional, right? So let's begin. See, the first thing that I'm going to say is, see, optional subject is one of the most important part of your UPSC journey. This is a game changer according to me, because this alone, optional subject alone can make or break your selection process. Because optional subject, see, in optional subject is in mains phase. Basically in mains there are total 9 papers, out of which 2 papers are of optional, and each paper is of 250 marks. So that means total weightage of optional subject is 500 marks. Keeping the language paper aside, the total marks of mains is 1750, out of which 500 marks is of optional. So optional is 1/3 of your mains. So basically it is one of the it carries a huge weightage. So you have to be very careful while selecting your optional, because once you take your optional and you start your preparation, you complete the syllabus, there is no turning back, you know because you have to spend a lot of time. You have to give 5 to 6 months of preparation, then you have to give 2 to 3 revision you have to do. That means you're investing a lot of time in your optional. So you have to I would say invest a lot of time before, so that you can have choose optional according to your strength, and later you do not regret it. So see, I'll tell you there are many instances when people took wrong optional, and just because of wrong optional they did not clear the mains phase, and then later those people changed their optional subject, and then they cleared the examination and they became the IAS officer. So this is the importance of optional, so don't take it lightly. Now before proceeding, I would like to tell two to three points. Like suppose if you are in school, right? So right now you have a good opportunity. What you can do is you can take any subject in your graduation which is of which in which you have a good interest, right? Because optional subjects have a lot of variety. There are a lot of optionals in which you can choose from. You can choose from arts, you can choose from engineering, you can choose from science. There's a lot of variety. So what I suggest to school students is right now focus on your school properly. Right now focus in your school subjects, and in graduation take that subject in which you have good interest and you have in-depth understanding about that subject. And then later, if you do your graduation properly from that subject, you can take that same subject in your optional, UPSC optional. So in that way you will be in much better position as compared to other aspirants. You'll be much ahead of them. Another thing is those people who are in first second year doing graduation from from that subject which is there in optional. So try to do your best in that subject, so that there is a possibility that you might take that subject in your optional, right? And those people who have cleared their graduation, now obviously you have only two options. If you had done your graduation properly, so you can continue with that subject as your optional subject. And if you had not done that subject properly, like me, my my graduation subject was physics and I did not do it properly. So then I had to take public administration, and I think 99% of the people, 99% of the aspirants fall in this category. So what can they do is, now you have to select an optional for you, which is one of the toughest job of an UPSC aspirant, to select an optional, because 500 marks is at stake. So you cannot do a mistake over here. So I'm going to tell you a few points which you should keep in your mind before selecting an optional subject. So keep these 3 to 4 points and then come to a conclusion. Okay, see, the first point is, keep one thing in mind. First, there are go through all the optionals, whatever are present, right? And then select then filter out some optionals. Okay, there will be many optionals, there will be many subjects which you don't like, you just directly cut them, right? At the end, I'm sure you'll have 4 to 5 optionals in which you'll be confused. You'll filter out everything and you'll be having 4 to 5 optionals. Now you have to choose among them, right? So now I think the job becomes easy. Now what you do is you read the NCRTs of of all the optionals which you have. You do some research, you do some study on those subjects, and in 1 to 2 week you will know, okay, this is the subject in which I have interest, and this is subject which I'm not feeling comfortable. To according to that, you can have you can have one positive side of a certain optional and negative side of a certain optional, right? Now you will proceed to second point. Another thing that matters is you will be keeping one thing in mind, that the optional which you have selected, do you have any prior knowledge? Like, did you do that, did you read about that subject in your school or in your graduation, or it is completely new? If it is that subject which you just saw in a topper's video, and just because topper took it, or just because your friend says this optional is good, or just because someone says that this is scoring optional, and then you are taking, then this is one of the biggest mistake. Don't do it like that. Every individual has his own strength and weakness. A person who is telling you that history optional is the best, he might be a champion of history. He might be good at memorizing things easily. He might have a good understanding. He might be having expertise in that subject, or he might be he might have done that subject very well in his school time. So that is why you should not choose your optional on others' recommendation. I would say this has to be purely your own personal decision. Please keep this thing in mind. This has to be your personal decision. Do not take your optional subject because that him or her has told you. Okay, last 2 points. Number one is you should, after you have figured out 2 to 3 optionals, now you should see whether the coaching or the study material is easily available or not. There are many optional which are very famous. You will get study material anywhere, in any city, any place, because those are famous, and most of the people, most of the aspirants are going to take that. So material is easily available. But there are some optionals whose material is not available, and very less candidates take such certain optionals. And if you try to take that optional, so you have to do a proper research whether the optional which you are going to take is material available, is proper coaching available. If I want to take coaching, is guidance available? If yes, then only you should proceed with that optional, right? And the last but not the least, the most important thing that I have been saying again and again and again, that is interest. Interest is the top priority. Forget about everything. Even if at the lowest syllabus, it does not matter. If you don't have interest, you're not going to complete the syllabus, and you will have hard time completing the syllabus. As forget about doing 3 to 4 times of revision. So please keep this thing in mind. Interest is the priority. Interest has to be the priority. If you love any subject, you will read it. It won't matter to you that if you love any subject, you will study it. If you take any subject in which you don't have interest, you will get bored easily. After reading 1 to 2 hours, you're not feeling like studying this subject anymore. Then you'll switch on to another subjects, and you will be skipping the your optional routine. You will postpone it. Okay, I'll cover it next month, and that next month will never come because you don't have interest. So you'll keep on avoiding the optional studies. That is why interest is very important. Take that subject as your optional in which you have interest, and by interest mean you love it. You can read it anytime. If you get bored of all the other GS subjects, you can read your optional because it is your passion. That is the only way you can master and get great marks in that subject. See, optional has a vast syllabus, so you have to be consistent in your optional, and you have to do 2 to 3 times of revision. Another example I would like to give you. See, that Kanish Kataria, he did engineering, and then he took the engineering optional, and then in one interview he told that he loved his optional because he did the same thing in his graduation. So whenever he got tired of studying, he would just practice his optional papers, and he would just solve it for hours and hours because he loved his optional and he had full interest in that subject, and that is how he scored great marks in optional, and that is why he became AIR 1, right? So interest is the top priority. Don't neglect it. Many people say which is the highest, which is the scoring optional. See, many people score in anthropology, they score in political science, but if you don't have interest in these subjects, forget about scoring. You might not even get 200 marks, and this is the harsh reality that I'm telling you. Interest matters the most. Just don't take your optional subject because your friends, your colleagues, or anybody is saying. You do the proper research, and please take accordingly. Last but not the least is how to prepare for the optional. See, I'm not an expert for every optional, and I cannot guide you on all the optionals, because for optional you need expert guidance. By expert guidance means a person who has been in that field for a longer time. Either a topper who has cleared from that particular optional, you can take advice from him. You can watch toppers strategy videos in YouTube, or you can type in Google how to prepare this specific optional, how to get the material for this optional, which are the books used for this option. These kind of searches you must do in YouTube and Google. I can guarantee you will get a lot of things, and you can get good guidance from there. But I would say for optional, if it is possible, you must take coaching. I don't say you take coaching for GS, because GS you can be covered at home by self preparation, but for optional you need expert guidance, because the optional syllabus is vast. It has two papers, it has many dimensions which need to be covered, and you have to cover each and everything. You cannot even leave one single topic. The question might come from there, and if you miss out on 3 to 4 questions in your optional paper, it might hamper your whole preparation. So if possible, you can take coaching for optionals, then you will be studying in a systematic way, and you won't be investing a lot of time in your optional then, because research is already being done by the experts, and they will simply provide you the data, and then you have to go through it. So in that way you can focus on all the other aspects of the examination. So this was from my side. Keep this thing in mind. Please take your time before selecting the optional subject. Don't jump into it right away. Do some research, please. Again I'm saying, once you take optional, there is no going back. So please give as much as time you can give to the optional subject. And that's it for today. My next 2 videos will be on NCERTs and newspaper. So soon we'll be covering we'll be done with all the basics, and then we'll proceed with some advanced topics. Okay, so that's it for today, and thank you for watching.